This conference will now be recorded.
The time being 4:50 p.m., I'd like to call the meeting of July 7th to order. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please note that Selectman Pyra is running late. He did give us prior indication of that, but he will be here as soon as possible. The first, next order of business is to review and approve the minutes from 6/16 and 6/30, 2022. So 6/16 minutes. Selectman Constantino.
I had a couple of things on this one. One is the first page, 1 of 3, last paragraph on Scott distributed a draft of economic development, updated sidewalk policy. The very last sentence, and further review of the policy is done with the contents to include no signs on the sidewalk. I think it does a little bit more than saying just no signs on the sidewalk. I think the content was nothing on the sidewalk. We talked about tables, we talked about displays, we talked about a lot of other things, so that there would be nothing at all on sidewalks. And this just
Bottom of
indicates
page
no
1,
signs.
last sentence.
It's misleading. We can either take it out or we could,
No, I was advocating for nothing on the sidewalk.
I believe it was.
well, the policy indicates nothing on the sidewalk.
Right.
But this
I
is
didn't want
saying,
to change it.
but this is saying to, in contents to include no signs on the sidewalk. It's misleading.
I'll ask Gail to make that change.
Mr. Pyra.
We have one more. This is the right week. So on page 3 of 3, the second to the last paragraph, Selectman Constantino brought up the cemetery issues. Selectman Scanlon noted that the town is responsible for maintaining that cemetery. Selectman Constantino referenced the list page from Reynolds' book from the town clerk tax collector's office. After spirited discussion, Jeannie will contact the town legal counsel for advice on how to proceed. So I think that we need to listen to what was said there. I believe what was said was that the town clerk tax collector offered a page from Reynolds' book, but nobody said that the town is responsible for maintaining that cemetery. The reference was that the list that was in the Reynolds' book from the town clerk tax collector's office dated that year 2000 and whatever, we showed you that page, indicated that it was said town maintained, but neither one of us said that it was that the town was responsible for maintaining that.
Ask Gail to listen to that section of the tape again. Correct it.
All right, that's a big difference.
Joe?
Mr. Scanlon.
Okay, so, same paragraph. There's a lot of information that's not there. And I want to put in there, a photograph was shared depicting a generator and a pad, as well as a gas line within the bounds of the cemetery. Selectman Scanlon expresses concern this was a violation of state law and must enforce the law. We know that the gravestones have been moved and boundaries have been moved. Selectman Scanlon asks a cease and desist be served. We not continue to put this off. Selectman did agree. Selectman Jessman agreed 2 hours and 15 minutes. Gravestones were removed. Never caught. Gravestones were removed and he saw them. Selectman Constantino stated the graveyard has been made smaller and was being maintained by Mr. Walker. Selectman Scanlon requested a full research of the deeds. Selectman Jessman requested complete accounting on what the costs were. Got copies of all that. Yes.
Was that from
That's,
the transcribed from the tape?
yeah, on the video.
All right.
Not-
Yeah.
Make a motion, we accept the minutes as corrected.
Ruggles, second. Motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none.
Actually, sorry.
Yep.
I don't know if we should not approve them just because there's a lot of changes, particularly with that one paragraph. And
Do you want to table this? Is that what you're saying?
I'd like to suggest it just because I haven't had a chance to listen to the tape. And we can all listen to the same thing. We'll all come up with different interpretations of it. And I just worry that, okay, that's the way it is. If someone goes back and looks at the minutes if they're approved or when they're approved.
Mr. Scanlon.
So I took these verbatim, read through them, and checked the times, include some of the times on it. And we all know that that was an 18-minute conversation that was into just a couple sentences on here. So I think it's time that we move forward with this. It's been almost 3 months that we've been discussing this and pushing it out another 2 weeks. You know, you should have looked at the video, and I'm sure you're aware that there's a lot more said than just what's in the minutes.
Jeannie.
Mr. Chairman, I think Selectman Scanlon is probably right. I guess this board needs to decide, because what we have been doing is paraphrasing and summarizing. If you now want to go back to verbatim, that's going to be.
It's far from verbatim because I said 18 minutes, we discussed this.
Right,
Now,
but-
adding in stuff
Let her
was
finish,
not
John.
included.
John, let her finish.
I understand that, but the person who's doing the minutes, I mean, what is she, if what she's doing is summarizing, because that's what she's been doing, and then somebody decides that they want this, do you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
She needs direction because she's doing what she's always been doing. And if you want it verbatim, or if you want something specific, that's fine, but
I think that on important issues, and I think this is what John is saying, that every single week, we've been talking about this issue. I think that it's really important to get the minutes reflected on this. And I think that that's really important on important issues.
Mr. Scanlon,
I'd also like to make sure that my motion is included in this week's minutes verbatim. Let the record show.
What was your motion again, John?
I think I sent you a copy.
Oh, fine.
Yeah.
Didn't know it.
to me, the difficulty in the future would become is how do we discern what is important and needs to be verbatim versus what needs to be summarized? And my concern there is just, how do we do that? And how would we do that? So to me, it would either have to go one way or the other. Or is it appropriate to note as we start a discussion that we would like this discussion noted verbatim?
Right, and the other point of that is if that piece is verbatim and then later on something else is discussed, but it's not verbatim, it's a, how long do we keep these tapes, the videotapes?
We go back 11 years.
So the videotape has the exact language.
So my motion, which was seconded, was not verbatim. It was copies of a little part. It wasn't the whole discussion, as I stated. The discussion was actually, if you look on the video, it's 18 minutes long. I'm asking for this paragraph to be included in the minutes because the minutes presently don't state anything about any of these things, which are very serious things. It's state laws that are, I have concerns that it's a violation. I stated that. I stated that we must enforce the law. These are all statements, they're very serious statements. And if we're trying to exclude those, that's another serious problem. And that's what we're doing right now.
Unless I'm wrong, the motion on the floor is to accept the minutes as amended as correct. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
It is.
The language that John's requesting, he already asked that it be included.
Correct.
So why are we arguing about it? If a yes vote means yes, this goes in the minutes verbatim. I call the question.
Question has been called. Those in favor of approving the minutes of June 16th as amended and corrected, please say aye.
Aye.
I abstain because I was not there for the majority of the meeting.
I'm a nay.
So those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. 3-1 with one abstention.
Can I ask a really quick question before, so this doesn't hold up the signage going down there?
Yeah.
Do you need the Department of Revenue thing only has 3 signatures? You need the chair and the vice chair to sign it.
I think whatever 3 selectmen sign it.
Okay. Thank you.
Next, our meeting minutes from June 30th, 2022. I move to make a motion to accept the minutes of Thursday, June 30th, 2022 as written.
Jessamine second.
Motion and a second discussion.
Well,
I'll say. Anyone else? Hearing no discussion, those in favor of accepting the minutes June 30th, 2022 as written, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next on the agenda is a presentation from Outfront Media. So we welcome the folks from Outfront Media. Please come on up.
same as what you emailed to us.
Yes.
I think it is. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Ruggles. My name is Jerry Allen. I represent Outfront Media. Here with Mike Cawley, real estate representative for Outfront, Dick Boulay, consultant, and Marianne Carpenter, our senior account executive. Sorry.
It's a one of those, you have to be close.
Gotcha. Again, thank you for allowing us to present to you today. We started the process of working with the town in April regarding the possibility of partnering to put billboard community information panel in town. With that, we put a proposal together that I believe you all have in front of you regarding this project. If it's okay with you, I would like to go through it quickly and kind of outline for you what we had in mind, as well as give you a little bit of background about Outfront Media. So starting on page 4, it gives you some information about Outfront. We're a publicly traded company. We have an outdoor advertising presence in the top 25 markets in the country. Our headquarters is in New York City, and we have a local office in Hooksett, New Hampshire. We are a financially viable company. We're a real estate partner currently with the town of Merrimack, CSX Transportation, as well as many transit properties across the country. We have an excellent relationship with New Hampshire Department of Transportation. We have 12 displays on their property in Salem and Manchester, and have had a very good working relationship for many, many years. We're the largest out-of-home company in the United States with over 2,200 employees across the country. We have a total of 67,000 large format displays and over 500,000 displays in total in the United States. To date, in our 82-year history, we have never failed any contractual obligation that we've had with any municipality or other entity. And we are recently named one of Newsweek's most responsible companies. Beginning on page 6, just a little bit about Outfront in New Hampshire. We are locally based, as I said, in Hooksett, New Hampshire. We are very vested in some of the latest technology and industry trends. We are a one-stop shop, meaning as far as our out-of-home displays are concerned, we build them, we sell them, we maintain them, we provide advertising services for our clients that may not have it. We're pretty much a soup to nuts company when it comes to out-of-home advertising. We've got 3 local account executives in New Hampshire, supported by over 700 account executives across the country. And why New Hampshire? We're in New Hampshire. We are the largest out-of-home company in New Hampshire. For many reasons, second ranked in entrepreneurship, 23rd percent high household income versus the national average, ranked 3rd for most commuters who work in a different state, with over 2.2 million annual visitors, which is quite astonishing when you figure the state has about 2 million residents. That kind of draws something that's very substantial. In New Hampshire, we have 3 media types: bulletins, posters, and digital posters. We've got approximately 240 locations throughout the state, covering 9 of the counties in the state. And that map provides you a little bit of an idea of what our coverage looks like. That's the map on 97 or 83% of our advertisers are local advertisers, meaning advertisers that are located here in the state of New Hampshire. And that's a fairly significant number when you consider the average across the country is probably closer to about 60% local versus national advertisers. And on page 11, it lists some of the local advertisers that we have currently displayed on our structures throughout the state. On page 12, it may seem a little strange to have a Boston MBTA station or parking garage in a New Hampshire presentation, but we bring this up for the specific point of content management and strategy, which you'll kind of understand as we get a little bit further into our presentation. We have a full service digital operations team. Now, when I say to you that our operations team is based in Spokane, Washington, you may think that's a little bit strange. However, from that office, we control all of the digital structures that Outfront Media has, and we have the ability to provide any advertiser or municipality that we work with real-time opportunities to display on our digital screens. Typically, you're talking about a turnaround time of several minutes, where once we get a piece of information that needs to go up onto these screens, we call it into our Spokane office. Within a matter of minutes, it's up on that screen. So some great opportunities for municipalities to get impactful content up in a timely manner.
Jerry, I'm just saying Amber Alert type things, weather related emergency things, and that's being able to respond that quickly.
Correct.
Weather-related emergencies,
Yes.
things
Yes.
like that. You
Yeah.
can't hear you back there.
Sorry.
Kind of stole my thunder. So, page 14, the benefits of digital. It's affordable for local advertisers. Our displays will display up to 16 ads, which is 8 ads per face, per side. They're environmentally friendly. They put off less ambient light than your traditional static billboard will. Opportunities for town messaging, for high school sports, for community events. Emergency messaging, Amber Alerts, weather alerts, all of those things. We have the ability to get those up in a very timely fashion. As you'll see later on, we've got some depictions of displays that we have in mind, very aesthetically pleasing. And in this particular instance, the town would receive revenue as a property owner at the site where we'd like to put this particular community information panel. So our proposal is, the short story is to erect 2 digital panels on the DPW property on the west side of town. Page 16 gives you an idea of the before shot, which is just east of Dairy Queen location, and what that might look like afterwards. That is the west face, so that would be traffic coming from the Franklin area into downtown Tilton. Page 17 is the opposite side. So you'd be leaving downtown, heading west through town past the DPW location. Page 18 basically are two designs that we've kind of boiled it down to. We looked at many different opportunities, types of signs that we might be able to erect. These are the two that we've come down to. These are not final decisions. These are just examples of what we think would be well suited for the DPW site. Even the welcome to Tilton is just an example of the types of facades that we might be able to provide for the town if in fact we are granted the privilege to erect this sign. And again, page 19 are just some examples of community messaging, typical of other municipalities and communities that we work with, just to give you an idea of what it would look like. This particular sign, it's a 10-foot high. The actual sign itself is 10 feet high by 30 feet long. The actual size of the entire structure will be dependent upon location of the structure, because you have to, there's certain engineering that has to be put in place in order to determine how big the facade will be. And again, that depends on elevation, so on and so forth. That DPW property is a little bit, parts of it are nice and flat, other parts are kind of down into a gully. So it's got to, we've got to get some engineering squared away to determine what's the best site and what types of height we would be talking about from ground level. The crux of our proposal is the basically the deal that we'd like to strike with the town as a partner with us. Let me back up 1 second. This whole process started as we were working with an existing landlord in town. You may be aware we've got 6 billboards on the east side of Tilton, just east of the Valvoline oil change property. We had come to town talking to Tilton about having an opportunity to take all of those signs down and replace it with a back-to-back digital structure similar to this. And with that, we offered to, maybe there's opportunities to work with the town in other capacities to do something similar. That's where the DPW site came up, and that's why we're here today. So what we're proposing is a 20-year contract. It's a 15-year contract with a 5-year option, where we would provide the town with substantial rent, what we call a minimum annual guarantee, for the privilege of being able to provide advertising on this particular property. There's no cost to the town for this project. And in years 1 through 5, we would be providing the town with $20,000 per year. And there would be, every 5 years thereafter, it would be a 10% bump in that number. So it would go to 20, to 22, to 24.2, to 26.6. In the end, it's an opportunity to generate approximately $464,000 for the town. In addition to the monetary value, we will be providing the town with up to 1 flip of advertising for community messaging, whatever the town feels is needed, opportunities to present to the community, which basically amounts to 1,080 opportunities per day. Again, a value of $10,000 to $13,000 per year. That's really not going to cost the town anything. And in the event that there is other unused space on this particular digital billboard, we would provide the town opportunities to use that space as well. With on page 21, it's just a pro forma that kind of outlines the yearly and aggregate amounts that would be provided to the town. And again, this is, we have a long history of working with municipalities across the country and trying to partner with them in an effort to provide advertising to clients where we have demand, as well as work with towns and hopefully to provide them with opportunities to either revenue or advertising or what have you, things that are going to benefit the community. We want to be a good partner. We have been a good partner with the state and many municipalities in New Hampshire. We'd like to continue that with the town of Tilton.
Questions from the board?
I have lots of them.
Selectman Constantino?
So you had mentioned that you were going to take that, the subject came up, and this is how it all got started on Route 3. You have a lot of the billboards up here, and that you were going to, you could possibly take those down and just put one digital one up, and the subject came up, and that's how it kind of redirected down to the public works.
Correct.
Okay. If that became a reality, would you still consolidate up on Route 3?
That is our plan.
That's your plan?
Correct.
Okay. 18 feet high is kind of where you're saying here, it's given, give or take the engineering
I'm
of
sorry, which page are you on? I just wanted to make sure I'm looking at the same. Okay, yeah,
Got the base in this.
Mhm.
17, 18
correct.
inches high. Sometimes there's one here that's 24, and 30 feet wide. Can anybody here in the room, particularly maybe Ms. Alden over there, tell me what the off-premise sign ordinance is? Advertising, I'm sorry.
It's not in our ordinance at all.
It's not allowed in the town of Tilton. So the municipality would be breaking our own rule by allowing signage down at the DPW, having this company come in and allowing companies purchasing advertising while we display it. So New Car could buy advertising and have advertising down there while their company's up here. Or, and a perfect example in your booklet is Auto Fair, which is in Manchester. They could
Correct.
purchase advertising to come here in Tilton, and they're in Manchester. And we don't allow in our ordinance, in our zoning, off-premise advertising.
That's-
So that would be something that we would have to go to town meeting and reevaluate at town meeting in order to get passed.
And we would also have to go for a variance with the ZBA to see if they would allow it. I mean, that would be another option.
Well, we would still be breaking our rules if we go to the zoning board. So here we are at the Board of Selectmen, we'd still be breaking our rules if you went to the ZBA and asked for a variance. Correct?
Isn't that the purpose of a
Right.
variance?
But it would be the selectmen breaking their own rules. The other question I have is what kind of lighting and what kind of direct lighting to the abutters? How much lighting do we have across the street?
We have, my answer is, it's a very technical question, and we have experts that can provide you with that information. However, previously, we have provided Ms. Moynihan with some technical documents that outline any type of light spillage that might occur. When you look at a traditional billboard, they're either lit from above, shining down onto the face, or from below, shining up on the face.
Right.
Those types of lighting provide, a lot of spillage just for the nature of it, reflection, whatever. when you talk about a digital billboard, all of the light is emanating from the board out.
Right.
And there's technology that will limit how much of that actually spills out, spills up or down. And this is all documented information that we can provide for you, or have our technical people talk to whomever you would like them to talk to as well. But the spillage is minimal. So as an example, at the DPW site, if it's a back-to-back digital billboard, as you're driving down on the road, you're going to see the sign. On the other side of the road, there's going to be very limited spillage of light just because of the way these boards are constructed.
So, which brings me to the next question. When you're driving down the road and you have a 30-foot, in that particular area, you have a 30-foot sign, which is digital LED, right? And all of a sudden you come across this large sign, isn't that distracting to the drivers?
There's many studies done federally and at the state level that show that there is no distraction for digital billboards. And those are all studies that are published. We can provide
Why
you
the
those as
Public
well.
Works Department? Why that particular site in the town of Tilton?
We were looking for a site owned by the town that was on a roadway that would be able to support advertising. If I put a billboard up on Elm Street, we're not going to have any advertisers by it because traffic there is limited.
I really like the idea of money coming to the town. And I really like the idea of being able to use it to advertise things in emergency situations. But if I get a vote, I vote no. You made a statement that really hits to the heart of it for me. You have signs all over the country, and you have signs in urban centers and whatever. I don't like the billboards we have. I understand why they're there, and I get it. But I don't want Tilton to be cluttered with billboards. If I say yes here, I'm fairly well compelled to say yes everywhere else. Can't tell you guys yes and tell them no. It's inconsistent. It's legally indefensible. So I'm going to stick with no.
Well, that's precisely why we're making an effort to reduce the amount of signage in the town.
We have a couple of clumps, and we have signs on buildings because we do have that whole, the restaurant over here can't do up there to cut down signage. I'm a no. I understand your position.
Thank you for listening.
Oh, you bet. You bet. I wanted to see what you had to say for sure. But it just seems like putting flash, and we have an ordinance against billboards that change abruptly and stuff like that.
Excuse me, I have seen some signs that have motion, just so you know, these would,
Oh, I know.
And
that's
I'm not
the
trying to
bane
argue
of
your
my
point.
existence.
these would not have
I
motion.
hate that.
These would not.
Just for clarification, there would be no motion. Our signs advertise, each sign faces 8 advertisers, and the ad stays up for 10 seconds. The state regulation is 8 seconds. Ours is 10.
How often can they change here in Tilton? There's language in our ordinances that says how often they can change. They're not supposed to be moving at all. At all. With that said, I believe in that, and I won't say yes to something that even remotely could have that. Quite frankly, once that board is there, you can do anything you want, and I can get a lawyer. And I hate lawyers.
So they're the bane of your existence.
No, okay, all right. He's actually right.
And then other
I know they have it other places, but I choose to live in New Hampshire because we don't have it.
Mr. Scanlon.
About 15, 20 years ago, we didn't have an ordinance for offsite advertising. And we had a business that put up a sign blinking and all doing that, which caused quite a stir with the residents of town. And they went all got together, they made an ordinance, they voted, the legislative body voted on it at town meeting to eliminate all possibilities of having offsite advertising. So I didn't feel comfortable that seeing as the legislative body, all the people who live in this town, the taxpayers all said, no, we don't want it, to allow for something like that, especially in an area that's not as commercial as that, it's getting more rural. Our income in this town, this state, comes from the ruralness, natural, and things like that. May fit in Manchester's or Salem and stuff like that, but the people in this town went to town meeting and voted to not have a sign. My other concern is that Board of Selectmen are the appeals board for any decision by the ZBA.
Right.
So you should actually be going to the ZBA first, because we shouldn't be hearing things like this because it hasn't even gone through ZBA. So you're selling it to the guy who's, the appeal process, as opposed to going through the regular process. I don't think that's proper.
Well, I think it's just, they haven't made it formal for us yet. This is just
Testing the water.
testing the water, John.
I think this is different. Just to point out, this is different than what is going on at the other end of town, because this is town property.
Right.
And they're coming to the board to say, is there even any interest before we go to the next step? That's why they're here. Not, that would be out of step. Then we go to ZBA before talking to see if there's even any interest.
So my next question would be, is the town allowed to lease out or enter a business agreement to receive income from a property that's owned by the residents, not the town? It's public property and they are all taxpayers or owners of that property. Can we go and lease that out without going before a town meeting?
I think that's a question that the board would have to look into if this was something. This is just the first step. And Scott and Eric, you can speak to it. You were there when they made the presentation to you. This is just to find out if there's any interest before. I mean, there are a lot of things that have to be answered. If this board says no, then they stop.
Mr. Pyro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question. Just because I don't know if it's my eyes or I'm just visually inept, but on page 16 and then page 17, you show both faces.
Correct.
Of that. But I believe, and again, my recollection is that heading west, there are trees that would possibly be in the visual way of, if you look at that picture on page 16, those trees almost go out to the road.
Yes, there are trees all along the, so page 16, the
Yep.
Dairy Queen sign. And then there is a grove of trees there.
Right.
Then there's the DPW driveway.
Yep.
And then there's another grove of trees. The exact location is TBD.
Okay.
We're not going to be as presumptuous, say, hey, we're going to go do it here. We haven't walked the property with anyone from the town. We've visibly been there and looked at it and things of that nature, but are there pipes that are running under there? Is there any type of underground obstacles that need to be considered? So we're very open to placement. It's just a matter of where it would be placed. These are photo sims to give you an idea of what it would look like. There would be some trees that would need to be removed, no doubt about it, because that entire frontage in front of the DPW is covered with trees.
Right.
There's wetlands on both sides of the DPW.
That's one of the other things. I know that where on the side of the driveway comes down, there is some wetlands down there, but I don't know exactly where they are. We'd have to walk the property and find out from someone knowledgeable about that, what the options are. If there are any.
Oh, there are. There are.
But
There's wetlands.
Yeah.
It's a known
Yeah,
fact.
it was surveyed.
What's that?
It was surveyed and marked.
Oh,
Conditions.
it's in the survey. It's a known fact.
But just because it was brought up, so, and maybe Tim can answer this question, I don't know, or Jeannie, if the only thing I can compare it to is a cell phone tower. If a cell phone tower wanted to be placed, say, the best location along that section of road or that section of town was on the DPW property, and they would come and they would pay rent in a similar fashion that they're paying rent on that. There's no obligation on the town to construct or maintain the tower, but there would be an agreement. So I would imagine that, I don't know how that works. The fire district put a cell phone tower up, but they had to go through, I don't know if it was ZBA or planning in the town, in a different town to erect a cell phone tower, but the revenue from that goes to benefit. And then there was a fund that was established at district meeting for that revenue to go to that instead of it going into the general fund. And then it's, however, that fund is set up to be dispersed, so.
It's all very similar.
Cell towers, be it as they may, are usually hidden somewhere in the towns, not a 30-foot wide, 18, 20-foot on the main highway in a town that has a population of less than 4,000 people. And for profit, yes, the revenue would be nice, and I know our financial manager over there is back saying, yes, it would be very nice. But would it be worth us selling our soul for that, money to come in every single year for that monstrosity to see every single day, as many times as we go back and forth on the main drag? For me, it's not. Not for the environment and not for less than 4,000 people. And for how many times, think about how many times in the last 2 or 3 years, or for you a year, that we've had to use a sign or signage for emergency or sports or whatever that we would use a billboard for. Think about that. And is it worth, number one, breaking our own rules for, number two, upsetting our environment in wetlands and all of that, and doing all of that for less than 4,000 population in a tiny little town. Yes, it's the gateway to a lot of different places, and it profitably, probably the best location for you folks to enter into an agreement with us. But you could move on up and find a better place like Meredith. I didn't even get a rise out of it. But there are other locations that you could possibly do that. But for me, it would be an absolute no.
Anyone else? Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
No, not tonight.
Thank you.
We're gonna move on.
Yep.
You don't have to. Not that you don't need, we don't have to. You can move on. This isn't gonna go anywhere. We're already in violation of our own rules, but allow these signs that are down there.
Okay,
Thank you again.
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Pearson.
Hey, hello,
Good evening.
good evening. So I heard some discussion about recession before the meeting started, and technically we're not in one yet from a technical perspective, but my review tonight is all about 2022, kind of where we were this time last year when we met at the EOC and reviewed the 22 budget priorities, and then looking ahead, first of all, reviewing the 2022 first half, and then looking ahead to the 23 budget priorities and what we're facing. So just a couple of points. While the last presentation was going on, I was looking up where oil was a year ago. And in the US, we're pretty much pegged to West Texas WTI, I forget what the I stands for, but in any event, it's up about 34% over the last year, and oil prices have been hovering around $100 a barrel. Its highest was in 2008 at $168.75 a barrel. So let's hope we're not headed that direction. But in any event, at that July 16th meeting last year at the EOC, I talked about three basic issues that we were faced with, which was inflation, labor availability, and the continued pandemic insecurity. And last year, I had reported we were at about a 4.3% rate of inflation. Now it's depending upon which number you use, whether it's the Northeast US, we're anywhere from 7.5 to 8.6. 8.6 is nationwide. And when you look at core inflation, which is inflation excluding food and energy, basically the most volatile items that inflation would wreak havoc on. Nationwide, it's at 6%. In New Hampshire, we're at 4.9% currently. And that's May data. So in any event, we're still faced with even higher inflation than we were last year. And until oil comes down, which affects just about everything that we do, or the Fed is able to take bigger action, because what they've done so far in the rates that they've raised so far has really done very little to curb inflation, and it's unlikely that without a lot more activity on their part, it's going to change much. So I'm kind of pessimistic on where the Fed is right now, although in their notes yesterday, they did note that they may be raising again, maybe even this next week. So it looks like, I mean, I've heard 2-3 different times. But in any event, they're going to have to do more than talk about it. They're going to have to actually raise it. I'll get to how that affects us a little bit later on. But in the labor market, last year I had reported we were at a 3.5% unemployment rate in the state. Currently, we're at 2.1%, which sounds good, but it's worsening environment for an employer because it's hard to find people and hire them, and there's more competition for the people that are competent or exemplary that are out there. And then lastly, we were still dealing with the pandemic and the general concerns about that. And, you know, now that's really morphed into recessionary fears about the economy. Last year, you could get a 30-year mortgage, a fixed mortgage for about 2.5% around June of 21. I saw some data recently for this month where it was saying now in July, rates have dropped to as low as 5.3% for a 30-year fixed. So still historically low compared to the first mortgage I ever had back in the early 80s. But it has an effect on everything, obviously. So then the last item that I discussed was just the need to prioritize economic development and the aspects that we had in place, all the components that we had in place, but it really took somebody lighting the match, and that was the board. And there's not much you can do about inflation. There's not much you can do about the labor market, but you really did act when it came time to look at economic development. And freeing up Jeannie's time by going to the 2 meetings a month, you know, has allowed her to really focus a lot more on that. And then also the support, the clear support the board has for economic development and seeing the investments that we make in town will eventually materialize into hopefully higher property taxes, higher property values, tax revenue, and a thriving town to live in. So anyway, that was kind of my recap of where we were last year versus this year. And I really think the board really, you should toot your horn over the economic development aspect, because in my book, that is just one of the most important things that you've done in the last year. So for the first half review, I've included some data at the end of the report, and essentially right now, if I exclude some of the June expenses that are coming in July, and I exclude the lump sum payment for holiday for the PD personnel, we're at a very solid $160,000 under budget for the first half of the year. And of that, $90,000 alone is in wages at the PD, just wages, not health insurance or anything else, just wages. So there's a significant amount that we're under budget. And you have to recall that the 2022 budget was developed by scaling in those PD positions. One was to start the end of March, and then end of April, end of May, and so on. But obviously budgets are plans, and not everything goes to plan, as one would hope. And so the combination of personnel changes that occurred at the PD, and then also the hiring timing, is how we've ended up with that. So to move on, in the PD, as you know, we've purchased the 2 vehicles, and it would make sense based on the discussion that was had at town meeting this last year that that we should remove the vehicle from the operating budget and make sure that it's a separate warrant article. It seemed as though people wanted to, to act on it through a warrant article apparatus. And then if there is money, and it can be worded in such a way that if there's money available in the detail fund at the time, which is essentially depleted at this moment, that could be used to offset it. So whatever is raised and appropriate would be the maximum amount, less whatever was available at the time of purchase, to reduce it by the detail fund amount. So that would be the recommendation there. I'm going to skip number 2 for a second. The radio replacements are underway. The purchase orders had been sent out to Motorola. This is for all the portable radios. They're being purchased through a combination of the Balance the Locality Equipment grant and also ARPA funds. And Jeannie's been really instrumental in making sure those grants were all pushed through. Also, the body-worn camera contract, that is up at the end of this year, and that's going to be one of their other bigger contracts. So that's a 5-year commitment that the town makes, and it's been about $7,500 a year. We did just recently receive replacement equipment for the majority of the body-worn cameras, and there's also licensing changes that can be made through evidence.com, which is a very expensive portion of that contract. So, anyway, that's going to be something that should be finalized soon, and that will impact our 23 budget. It does seem as though, and Lieutenant Gilman has tasked Sergeant Penault with this because this is what he's most familiar with and has dealt with it the entire time. And it does look as though there is an opportunity where we might be able to save some money because we have new hardware equipment or replacement hardware equipment. And if we can reconfigure that evidence.com, we might be able to save some money.
Did we already approve the radios and all of this? Did we already approve these funds from ARPA?
You did approve the radios, yes. Yep.
It would be, but not the body worn.
No, the body worn, there's been no presentation of a contract, quotes or anything. And I have asked recently the status of that. And then lastly, item 2 there, if you recall, Chief Pizer, when she was asked what what she felt was lacking in terms of PD equipment. She cited the mobile connection to the PD. So while we have mobile data terminals in the cruisers, they're connected to Belknap County. And as you recall, over the years, we've discussed whether IMC Mobile was a justifiable expense and how that would be done. Lieutenant Gilman is of the same opinion that we need to make a move to IMC Mobile. The cost of that is $11,000 and the maintenance is $1,500 a year thereafter. So that's one of the things that that we'll be talking more about in the next month or two to see if that's something that we can do out of the budget this year because of the existing savings. And also he would need to present to you how that's going to impact or benefit the productivity and the communications in the department.
What existing savings is cheaper for us to get it this year, or can we wait for next year?
Well, in other words, by doing it this year, you wouldn't have to raise and appropriate additional funds.
That's the savings.
Yeah, that's the savings. In Public Works, as you know, that we took delivery of the sidewalk machine, and that there are. And well, this was a few months ago, but and plans are underway. He's working on plans for three-phase power for the facility, as you know, partly to support equipment that may be used for recycling activities at the facility. Anything like that is going to have to be sought through the ARPA funds because of the size of the investment. In Town Hall, really the open item here, other than the assessment that was done, is the audio-visual equipment for up here, and we're still waiting on two components. And at the same time, Jeannie's been working on the electrical bids and the lighting bids for in here, so that it can all be done in one, at one time. So moving on to the 23 risk factors, priorities, schedule, and goals. So really not much has changed. We still have inflation. It's bad. The municipal labor market, it's tight. And then just the general, fears about what's going to happen next. It doesn't look very promising what's ahead. So first of all, the schedule. So right now through September, I plan to work with the department heads in the preparation and development of their own goals and needs, and really giving them whatever data that they need to support anything they would like to bring forward to you. And then in September, I hope to present to the board a draft budget, and then also be able to provide that to the budget committee so they can start working on their budget. And during the fall, that the Board of Selectmen would review the department budgets with the department heads. And then also, if you chose to attend the budget committee meetings, to also review the outside agencies, which the budget committee seems to, they spend a great deal of time and effort going through each of those. And then the plan would be that in November, the budget's finalized and presented to the budget committee, hopefully by Thanksgiving. So the overall goes, my own personal goal is to see that we don't exceed 4.5% increase year over year. And it's still early. I have to see what department heads are going to want to do, what they're going to want to put in for. A preliminary merit budget of 3.5%, and you'll see later I have some questions for the board, but these are just some placeholders, if you will, for now. And then there'd be an assumption that the full-time open positions would be filled and budgeted for all of 2023. So currently we have 3 open positions at the PD, 2 in patrol and 1 sergeant. And then in Public Works, we have 1 position open. And those are all full-time positions. So for the budget priorities, really one of the biggest is the personnel recruitment and hiring. It's probably one of the most important activities that can be taking place right now at the PD. And once we have a new chief in place, I'm curious to see if there'll be a different request for structural differences within the PD and how that would affect our budget. I don't have any idea one way or the other, or if it's going to be continuing the same structure we have now. It's pretty clear, though, that with the staffing levels we have now, were we to lose anybody for a short period of time, just about all supervisory personnel would have to probably be, responding to events and calls. So I have to believe that recruitment is got to be one of their top priorities as well. And as you know, personnel costs are the largest expense category for the town. I think it's really important to do periodic reviews of positions to make sure that the staffing is correct, the wages, the utilization of the position is correct too. Because what we want to be sure of is that we don't have positions that are underutilized in one area and overburdened in another area. So looking for that best bang for the buck of utilization to budget. So, you don't want to spend more than you have to, but you want to make sure what you are spending, you're getting what you expect. So, and that's really probably more a genie activity, obviously, but I think it's something important to do periodically, just to be sure that when everyone talks about things that you sort of understand that, well, these are our hours in this department. Well, do we need to keep those hours in that department? Would we, are those the right hours? Would we save money, or would we be able to reduce one staff member if we had different hours? Or, just it's good exercise to do periodically. And I can't think of a better time to do it than as part of the budget process when you're talking with department heads, sort of probing for those sorts of things. And then lastly, particularly, relating to the tight municipal labor market, we really have to have competitive entry-level compensation. And that's the PD, that's Public Works. That kind of leads into looking at that early renegotiation of the collective bargaining agreement, whether that makes sense and what the timing of that would be. So, so those are the, as I see it, the big items in the personnel recruitment and hiring. As we move on to inflation, everything has increased. Road materials, paper products, bullets. We've got to be smart how we procure things, and we've got to be smart in how we use things. Paper alone has gone up about 50% in the case paper that we were going to be buying, and I'm thinking, do we have to print everything we print today? And there are things that I really question whether we need to be printing, but we have practices, and so these things take time, but that's one of the things that internally I think we can do better at. We are very careful how money is spent administratively, but we're going to have to really, I think, really double down on that. Also, fuel costs. So from July of 21 through June of 22, we've used 10,037 gallons of gasoline. So 10,037 gallons, that's across the town. That's PD, Town Hall, and Public Works. And 4,113 gallons of diesel. So if you factor in, and I've got the average prices that we've paid for those, but if you factor in a $4.75 average for gasoline, $5 average for diesel, figuring that they're going to fluctuate. At some point they may be higher, some point hopefully they'll be lower, but we'd be looking about a $23,200 increase over our existing 22 budget for fuel, just for fuel. In addition, interest rates. Our current tax anticipation note is a 1% note. I checked with our bank and said if we were going out today for a tax anticipation note as a municipality, tax exempt, what would we be looking at for a rate? 3%. 3%. So triple what our expense is going to be right now. Now, because of some cash management issues that we had going into this year. We had a little bit more money in that short-term interest line, but bottom line is that's going to at least double going into next year. And it's something I got to tell you, I try really, really hard to manage the cash so that we don't have to borrow, but we don't have the kind of reserves other towns have. It's unlikely that we ever will. There's a propensity to want to make sure that the money is returned to the taxpayers, which is, I think, a good and fine thing, and I'm in favor of personally. But it does put the onus on us to really manage a very tricky situation from time to time, and particularly when you get into higher interest rates and the costs associated with that. And then lastly, lastly in inflation, as you know, we locked our energy supply rates for electricity and natural gas, but the delivery component, that's not locked. That comes from Liberty and from Eversource, and those can change. So, you know, while we did what we could, we can't do anything about those.
Is that what is rising, is the delivery in Eversource?
I think it's both with Eversource.
Okay.
So in any event, and then lastly, you know, the big change that we'd be looking at is if the board makes a change in sanitation vendors and transitioning to the removal of curbside recycling service, and then also needing to continue and make an investment at the Public Works facility. Yes.
Just before you flip the page. So, because I work better with dollar amount.
Yeah.
So on number 3 under section 2, the TAN,
Yes.
the 1% to 3%, what's that equal in dollars? Are we going from 100,000 to
No.
300,000?
No, we're talking about a $16,000 increase over the 22 budget. And the reason for 16, our current budget is 15,000. And because of some cash management issues that we had this year, going into this year, the amount was a little higher than for the 1% because of how I thought our payments were going to go. But we've done a good job managing that so far. We're only 12% spent.
No, I just wanted to get clarifications from my own head.
Right. So essentially, it would probably be more, instead of no more than $15,000 increase.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Mm-hmm. So then on the next page, the revenue. So, and this is really kind of apropos based on our the last presentation that you had, because revenue is stagnant. We really don't have any new sources of revenue aside from if the board were to increase permits or fees or you know, things of that sort, or if there were public-private partnerships. You know, that was something that was really hot in the municipal market a while back, and someone had asked the question, have we done any leases or rented before? And the answer was yes. The board leased out 61 Business Park Drive. We've had a number of leases over the years, but it's been very specific things and for generally short term. But you do have, you know, so the digital billboard, that is, you know, that's something that was revenue generating, leasing the 132 ball field or some other town property, or some other type of public-private partnership. We just don't have any other way of raising revenue. And this was an item that the budget committee struggled with, and really the chair of the budget committee brought up several meetings, you know, how can we raise revenue? And they're really, I mean, you could tack on a municipal fee for Atlantic Broadband, which the board has never done. It's always been a pass-through. But Northfield, I believe, has a 5% recovery. So every bill in Northfield, there's a 5% that goes to the town. And originally, those monies were used when towns were supporting LRPA, the public access television. And so in any case, I guess the net of this is that there are not many opportunities for additional revenue. The other thing that I get concerned with is that we've seen we've been awash with news of grants, some matching, some not, all sorts of federal and state monies in one form or another. There's going to be a retirement contribution coming from the state for the second half of the year. There's some shared revenue that they did away with years ago that we're about to get our second tranche of. Now there's the ARPA funds. We had the CARES Act. So there are numerous, monies that we've benefited from that we have to be careful, in my view, not to get used to, because it's a one-time thing, and it really puts the onus on the board and administration to make sure that we're using those monies in the highest use, best justified, and longest service uses. And then lastly, just regarding revenue, if it's not direct revenue to the town, is it something in the form of an impact fee that, according to our land use coordinator, we do have the ability to charge impact fees with projects such as the one that's been proposed along Route 3 in Winnisquam. So that's something that should be looked at as well down the road. Maybe that would generate some offset for the town. So basically, where we are from a preliminary budget view, we're going to be seeing increases because those 3 scaled-in positions in the police department are now going to be full-year positions. So that portion of the year where they weren't budgeted before, we're going to start out with the full amount budgeted for the year. Debt is going to increase by $49,000, which is the third step of the 3-year step up into the full payment. And it would have been, the actual payment for the bond is $80,000 more, but we had structured it in such a way that we got the 3rd year to fall at a time when there was a reduction in the sewer debt for 2 years. There's a 2-year reduction because of a renegotiation with the bondholders. And in doing so, in coordinating this to that 3rd year, when it went up by $80,000, we have an offset of essentially $31,000 through the sewer reduction, the sewer bond debt reduction. So the net of that is that that we're going to see the PD debt go up by $49,000. Short-term interest, this is that $16,000 I mentioned, Eric, that the 1 to 3%, but based on no more than that, based on the existing budget. Fuel increase, I already discussed that. Materials and maintenance fees, we have seen other maintenance costs come up, that service contracts that were required on the new communications gear at the PD, which, with the investment that we have in these items, we've got to maintain not only the HVAC system, the communications equipment, and any of these systems that were put in place have some type of maintenance agreement like that. And then wage increases from the merit increases, energy delivery costs, which I mentioned. Areas of decrease, so the LED street lighting. So in their proposal, they used the $19,048 figure, and that's what I'm using here. And then also, were we to, once the board looks at the sanitation proposals and makes a decision, there's a potential $80,000 savings there. And I'll just note that, as you know, we budgeted $100 per ton for recycling disposal. This last month, it was $43.41 per ton. So that market does fluctuate quite a bit.
Yeah, that seems strange.
It is strange. It's been high, it's been low, but to me, that's a good indication that maybe things are quieting down in recycling disposal. I don't know.
Yeah,
we shall see.
Went up to 80 cents a pound.
What did?
Aluminum cans.
Aluminum, wow. So in any event, and then outside of the draft budget, you'd be looking at the warrant article of 68,000 for a new vehicle offset by any detail fund monies, and then CBA cost items. So my question for the board really is, and this is something I'd like to discuss with you on the 21st briefly. I don't know if Jeannie has allocated anything for that, but I'd like to have an idea where what the board would like to see in terms of budget goals, merit percent increase, any other goals, budget goals that you'd like to see done through the budget. And then also, if you want to see any changes to the schedule, reporting, formatting, and that sort of thing. I've attached all the financials to the back of it. Just tell you quickly that, as you know, we're under budget in expense. We're also under budget in revenue. So we're down about 15% under where we were this time last year, and but it is still early in the year. A lot of our revenue comes in in the fourth quarter of the year. So other than that, unless you have any questions, that's it for me.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr.
Great.
Pearson.
Thanks.
I want to run this over then. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Tim? Yes, is that 15 minutes?
Yes, somewhere.
Good job.
Excellent job.
Thank you.
Yep. The time being 6:12 PM, I make a motion to enter into non-public session per RSA 91A32A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of any charges against him or her, unless the employee affected, one, has the right to a public meeting, and two, request that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted. Also, RSA A32C, matters which, if discussed in public, would likely adversely affect the reputation of any person other than a member of this board, unless such person requests an open meeting. This exemption shall extend to include any application for assistance or tax abatement or waiver of a fee, fine, or other levy, if based on inability to pay or poverty of the applicant.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none, roll call vote.
Constantino, yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Ruggles, yes.
Ira, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
This conference will now be recorded.
Bronchitis.
At least it's in the summer. At least it's in the summer.
Yes, what's in the sun?
We'll start with the idea of barbecue. I make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public session of July 7th, 2022, because disclosure would adversely affect the reputation of a person other than a member of the board.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor of sealing the minutes of non-public session of July 7th, 2022, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next on the agenda is review of the personnel policies and employee manual.
So at the last meeting that we had this discussion, it was, I think everything else had been resolved except for the social media policy. However, I think the last meeting when we did not cover this passage, we had some other issues, I think, as well. So, and then after we talk about that quickly, I want to give you Tim and I brainstormed some incentives, potential incentives beyond remuneration for employees that you might want to consider.
Did we make a decision on June 19th?
Yes, my recollection was that the board said that until the state of New Hampshire recognizes it as a holiday, all the other holidays we recognize are federal holidays. This is one federal holiday we don't recognize, but the state, they recognize it, they don't give the day off.
Okay, because I was
Yeah.
confused on that because they recognized it
But
and
they
I
don't-
didn't.
They
Okay,
don't recognize it by giving the day off.
ready to change my mind on it. Okay. That was one of my things that I had written in here.
We give Columbus Day off,
Yes,
or Indigenous People Day, or
Yes.
whatever it's called.
we do.
And what about the day after Thanksgiving?
Yes,
Is that a holiday for them?
it is. We count it as a holiday.
I'm just looking for my other notes here.
Yes, yeah, we fixed that, yeah.
I thought so.
Excuse me, 29 of 38. 5.65. It's in blue. Is that what was voted on prior to? Or was that something you're adding now?
Let me go back. So what page is it?
29 of 38. Yeah.
29 of 38?
Yep.
Okay. And
Uh,
blue,
Yeah, see what, green, if you want to say
Yeah.
teal or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've added?
yes.
Okay, so,
And I thought I had check marks like referring to it.
oh,
That's what as we went through these.
okay, I have just a question, and it's where it says, employees must use good judgment in their choice of work clothes and hygiene, and remember to conduct themselves at all times in a way that best represents the employee of the town, in the town. Excuse me. So how does one evaluate that? I know in the sentence prior to that, it says must not be inappropriate language or graphics or
That's,
that kind,
that's the evaluation.
that's it. So,
Tough one, any,
Yeah.
you really use.
all right, so then how can we make a statement like, when you say employees must, prior to that, it says please use, so you're giving
It says employees must use good judgment.
you
in their
changed
choice.
please use good judgment to employees must
Yeah.
use good judgment in their choice, By the way,
I didn't make these changes.
Well, that's what I was asking. Were these prior to?
Oh, yes, they were
With
part
the-
of me,
Prior to you?
yes, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, the only.
that makes more sense.
The only a couple things that I was involved in, social media policy, human rights to human resource, and
Yeah.
asking a question about Juneteenth.
Okay,
I think everything else was prior to me.
Okay. I did check on a couple of other social media policies, and this one is pretty much almost right to the point. And I did ask a couple of other people, you know, in different corporate worlds that I'm connected to. And I was concerned with civil liberties. To say, when we say to people, you're not permitted to access, or you can't have your cell phone anywhere, and it says you can't. And I said, well, where are we with civil liberties? And just like you said the last time, no, it's absolutely not. So this is kind of spot on, so I'm okay with that.
So the only other
I didn't know.
The only other thing that was outstanding
Yeah.
is, and I just want to confirm it with you, in the social media policy, we discussed it 5.4 on page 27 of 38. And I had thought that the first paragraph seemed preachy, and
Where are you?
so where it starts postings on social networking sites. I had said to the board, I thought maybe that should come out, and my recollection was that you said no, leave it in, and I just want to make sure before we
28.
do that. And also, this only applies to employees because elected and appointed officials are not employees, so that's the only piece on the social media. If you guys are good with leaving it in, that's fine with me. I just wanted to make sure.
Good question.
I think it's good.
Like I said, I've already checked with other corporate people,
Good.
other people in businesses, and they have this in their
Well,
postings.
If you are all good with this was easy.
Really?
Get it while you can.
I know. I will make these changes for you to sign at the next meeting. And then the other thing I wanted to mention to you was we talked about a total reward system for employees. And here are copies. What I'm going to hand out to you is just a brainstorming that Tim and I did. This is not, this is for you to say yes or no. It's not, I don't want anyone to say, it's your decision. We're
She
just
looks at
giving
me
you,
as she says that, you know.
we're just giving you ideas. Everything that's in black,
Wait,
everything that's in black is something you already do. It's already policy. So you can see there's a lot you do for employees already. The items in red are suggestions of things that you could do if you wanted to do something extra. The earned time donation is a situation where they do it in other places where, let's say, remember, if somebody doesn't have any earned time and they're out sick, other employees can donate some of their earned time to that person so they're not losing pay. So it's just another benefit you could offer if you want. They're not required to, but they could if they wanted. Floating holiday, that could be another extra day for employee, either for recognizing their birthday, their anniversary, or just a mental health day. That means they would get 12 holidays instead of 11. Under benefits, life insurance, possible giving them optional additional life insurance for the child and or the spouse. This would sort of like AFLAC. We would make it available to the employee that they would have to pay that differential, but we would offer that as an additional benefit. Like we have with AFLAC, the town doesn't bear any burden, but because we're a town, we can offer that and they have access to it.
so it wouldn't be applicant, it would be something else.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we'd have to, and we haven't done any research on any of this, so I didn't want to spend any time on it if it was a no. I'd have to look at it and then come back to you. Work-life initiatives, working remotely, we've kind of done this with COVID over the last year with some folks, flex time. There have been discussions with some employees about in the summer in particular, maybe you do a pilot if this is something you're interested in, that in the summer you go from 10 or 10-hour days and you have Fridays off. Just in the summer, see how it works, maybe at this point, because it's been, maybe it's in August, and see if it's something that works.
Well, we wanted to do that a while back, but because we're a municipality and people want to do business on Fridays, it would have to be staggered. Someone would have to be, so someone would have to do Tuesday through Friday and someone could do Monday through Thursday.
Yeah.
Which would be perfect.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
And you just have to make sure there's always two people.
Correct. Right.
The other is time away from work to volunteer. Would have to be a pre-approved group by the board. So let's say, I don't know, pick something that the town would, and I don't even know what that'd be, supports employee involvement in community organizations. Performance and recognition, we haven't, although we haven't done it in a while. I mean, the summer cookout we talked about. In my first year here, I think we did a Christmas party. Years after that, you polled employees and they've said we'd rather have a half a day off.
Yeah.
So at least in that context, I guess.
Right.
Service bonus, milestone celebration, card for the selectmen, or some, I know at 5, 10, 15, they get a certificate. Employee of the quarter in a local paper, along with a $50 gift card or half day off. So if somebody does something amazing that we celebrate it in the local newspaper, and they get a half day off or a $50 gift card, or maybe it's a $25 gift card, I don't know. Internal bulletin board of comments noticing great service. So this would be on a website and through interoffice that, somebody did something great, you'd say something about, everybody would see. Suggestion box, you would know what that's about. So let's say Kevin Duvall comes up with some amazing thing, or Pete Fife or somebody, and they put this idea in the suggestion box. And it turns out to be something really, the selectmen look at it and they're like, oh, this is a great idea. Let's try this out. And if it's something that they want to do, that they get recognized for it.
Yeah.
I mean, they had it when I worked in corporate America. So development, career opportunities, continuing education, scholarships. I don't think that should have been read because I don't think we do that. We give people, we let them do continuing education. We
Right.
give them time away. We don't pay them for the time, but
Right.
we'll let them. If they
Do
need
that.
that. But, so that should have been read.
We'll work with it.
And then revisit the insurance buyout if you want. Pay the insurance buyout there, and it's in the books. And I think it's been, 5 or 6 or 7 years. I don't know. Do we increase that? Is that the same? I feel like we've had this discussion before, that we were good where we were at. Pay time off buyout right now, it's 40% over, after you've been here 7 years. Do you want to consider saying, maybe reduce it down 5 years, or maybe after 7 years, it's 50%. You know what I'm saying? Change that somehow to make it more attractive or beneficial to the employee. And then paid time off rollover, because we've always struggled with the 60 hours. Do we increase that to 80 hours? And if these are things that you're interested in, again, we haven't done work on it, Tim could work out the numbers and tell you what that looks like, if that's gonna be a financial issue or not.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I would love to trial this time away from, I'm sorry. Where am I?
Flex time?
Yeah,
Volunteer.
no, the 10 hours, what we were talking about, 10 hours for the summer.
I think you'd have
And
to
then
make it
like
August
having
1st.
10 hours and then having a Friday off. And then I would love to trial that, because if that's successful, that saves quite a bit of time and energy and overtime. And because if we needed somebody over, they're open. If somebody can't get here by 4:15, we're open.
Right. That's right.
And it really does benefit the town in a lot of different ways.
We do that, Public Works now?
No,
We,
only in
we,
PD.
PD does,
Public Works did
but-
it once for a while.
we did it quite a while back. They worked early in the morning. They did it for 10 hours, but they came in really early in the morning to beat the sun, the summer. I think it was 9 hours, and then they did a half a day on Friday. Or something
Yeah,
like that.
also would have to talk to the department head to see.
Well, this is what I'm suggesting, that Jeannie kind of work out all
Logistics.
the glitches and everything like that, and come to us in 2 weeks and say, well, then the summer's almost over, but see if we can't
Do it for August.
do it.
Right.
Do it for August and September maybe, and then see where we're at.
Give us a schedule, what it would look like.
Or half of July in August.
Right.
We can vote on it in 2 weeks. Or just give you permission to do it and try it. It's gonna be a trial. There's gonna be some bumps.
The key thing is that we don't reduce any, service to customers.
Right. We're actually gonna
Yeah,
increase service to customers.
Well, you don't know if somebody only has, Friday or something to do something or whatever.
Well, we're gonna have somebody here because they're gonna stagger it.
So someone gonna be here 8 to 6?
They who? Exactly.
Yeah, and.
Kim, Jeannie, Gail, Leanne, there's no backup. So if you could put Leanne on 4 10-hour days, she's closed one.
So how
That
does somebody
doesn't
get,
increase.
Well, I mean, you've got Janice.
Yeah, you got Jeannie.
So, like Pat said, maybe it won't work. Maybe if Leanne does the 4 10-hour days and she says to Janice, well, on Friday, I want you to work, 8 hours. Because Janice is a part-time, so she could effectively work one. It may not work. Who knows? I don't know.
I mean, I think you could cover it with the statement that all regular working hours that we've already established need to be covered. And then departmentally, they can figure
Work
it out.
that out.
Yeah,
And just
then they
figure
can
it
work like example, DPW could do 10-hour days, but we always, Saturday's always got to be covered because.
And that's covered by overtime.
Yes, so I think saying that the regular working hours that we have, or the office hours, however you want to put it, that we already have established need to be covered.
Yeah.
As a department, you can sort of work it out with the flex hours.
And I know what Joe is saying. It's not like we've got 5 people in the department. So
Yeah,
Exactly,
okay,
right.
I'm willing to
Departments
listen
only
to your exact proposal when the time.
Yeah, because somebody comes through the door and they want to ask a question that you may be able to answer, but certainly Gail could answer for you and for Tim probably, but you maybe could answer some of what Gail does, maybe. Tim, maybe. So, yeah, he's got a point. So,
Hey,
but I'm willing to try
Whatever
it.
you think is best.
Yeah, I think it's worth a try.
Yeah.
I think you give it a.
And the rest of the things on the list, I'm willing to take a look at it. If you have proposals. a little bit more information
Yeah,
than this.
and I just, again, it's just ideas. So what does everyone else think?
It would be great to hear it. I think like something like earned time donation, which I work with, I think that's a wonderful thing because you'll see bonding and caring within your departments because
Yeah.
if someone needs it and then you know that you can give it, it sends a good message. So.
Is that an easy one for the board to say yes or no? And I'm not trying to push you.
What's that?
You want
Earned
earned
time
time
donation.
donation.
Oh, yeah, that's a very easy one
Yeah.
for me.
For me, that's a slam dunk.
I just want to see it in writing just to make sure,
Sure.
so that it's clear. It's like you can't give
Right.
20 hours or you can only give 8 hours or whatever.
I support it.
Yeah, what rate would that be?
What rate?
Their person who's getting the time off rate?
No, it'd be whatever the employee
Whatever.
that receives the
hour for an hour.
donation.
Hour per hour.
Hour for hour.
So if I make $12 an hour and I'm donating 8 hours to you and you're making $14 an hour, you're going to get it at $14 an hour.
Yeah.
You're just giving
Hour
it,
per hour.
you're losing your
It's
hours.
time.
Like Eric would be
Yeah.
losing his hours or giving them,
Right.
as Eric said, that's screwed.
Yep. And I've always had an issue with the bereavement leave. Because so it doesn't involve, so let's say you're married 40 years and your brother-in-law dies. Or you have to take paid time off for that.
And
And I just think that that's, really close to home when it's a lot of companies include the in-laws on it, but then a lot of, I guess, maybe not, the companies I've worked for have, even the one I work for now. But it's up to them. I like that. Flex time, I'm okay with. We kind of give that here anyway.
they are working remotely. That too. That's, and,
Well, the flex time, we've kind of,
yeah, but not to this extent that we're talking.
oh, you want to go further than that?
Well,
Okay.
that's the 410 hour.
410.
Days. That's why I say that.
Yeah, I'm definitely, yeah. Then I kind of like the floating holiday.
I want to give up a holiday. They already get 2 additional weeks off. They get 2 additional weeks off of paid holidays. So now you want to give them a 12th?
Do you get holidays off on your job?
I get some, I don't get all. I don't get Columbus Day. I don't get a lot of the other holidays. I think I get 6 or 7 holidays a year.
Yeah, I get 7.
My industry gets 0. Comes the holiday, you work because everybody else isn't.
Yeah.
And just remember where we're coming from. It's the attracting,
Right.
keeping people.
I'm not
Yep.
anti other industries. I'm just saying, there
I
are
agree.
those out there who happen to be constituents who don't get any of that.
Yeah, you want to do, you really do want to make it enticing. But don't want to give them everything.
No, I understand. I want to be the premier employer. I
Yep.
want the good employees that stay and that we don't have the turnover issue.
I agree.
And I understand that costs money.
Yep.
We could run, much leaner, but then we have bigger problems and we can't provide the services to taxpayers that quite frankly they've come to expect. It's a fine line.
Couldn't agree with you
You
more.
start cutting things like hours or garbage pickups, or people are gonna hate when they don't come by and pick up the garbage. People call.
But there'll be no one here to answer the phone. 'cause I
Well, there you
answered
go.
that.
Well, no, somebody was.
Whoever comes in first on Monday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now leave my touch.
What else? What else?
That,
Oh,
you had on your town report something. that
Yeah, there
we
are two
needed to
things I
do.
needed the answers from you.
Okay,
One was the election hours. I had asked the board, or the board had directed me to go ask the new moderator, Helen Hanks, her opinion on expanding the hours from, they are 8 to 7. Chuck Mitchell had asked the board consider making the election 7 to 7. Kim Souls, the town clerk tax collector, said she liked 8 to 7. I asked Helen and she said she would prefer the 7 to 7 because it accommodates shift workers. So this is for the September and November election. So I don't know what the board wants to do.
7 to 7 is fine with me.
Thank you.
keep it the same.
Yes.
I think it's a matter of getting being there all day and getting the workers and having the office open at the same time as having to be there 7 to 7. I think that's where she's coming from. Because Cindy had the same issue. Oh, yeah, for a lot of years.
And they,
Chuck wanted 7, Cindy
they
wanted
did.
8.
and they, I do remember that. They did 7 one year and Chuck tracked the people that came in, and there were people who came in at 7 to vote. So I think that's why he's back to that.
Right.
What I heard is 3 said yes and 2 said no.
But, 7 to 7.
7 to 7? Oh, okay.
Yes, 7 to 7.
I have to say no, because I have to, I seriously, I have to live at 7 Maple. Sorry.
All right. 7 to 7.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other one was just to follow up on the 2-hour parking in front of the Lobster Connection. So we had this discussion. Kevin did put the temporary signs down. They appear to be working. It's supposed to be good through the 22nd. In the last meeting, there was some discussion among the selectmen about, there was a lot of back and forth, but nobody actually took a vote or said yes. And I just want to come back and say, do you want to do this public meeting? Because I think that's what I was hearing, that there was a feeling that there should be a public meeting to discuss it.
Selectman Constantino?
So I went back on the minutes, and I'm sorry, I wasn't, unfortunately, we don't get the report until the day of the selectmen's meeting. And so I didn't have a chance to go home and print
Which report?
any of this.
Usually I get mine
The
to you by
TA report,
Tuesday or Wednesday, but
I know it was holiday week, I get it. But I did go back in, after the selectmen's meeting last time, and I went back and looked at the minutes in the map. I was trying to look for the map that we were discussing that was in line with the meeting that we had for the thing. We did vote on all of those spaces to be 2-hour.
yes,
That was definite.
yes.
So there's really no need for us to have a public hearing because we did vote for those spaces that now have 2-hour parking. Those are all 2-hour parking. And we highlighted the spots in which were to be,
Was this before the last meeting? Is this
The
some
public-
kind of-
this was during the public, when we had the public hearing. And we had Winnisquam Market,
Oh, I
and
see
we
that
had-
before me.
Winnisquam Marine,
Okay.
in all of that, and they showed the map. And so when they showed the map, we outlined which ones were gonna be 2-hour parking. And they highlighted all along the median strip, which ones were gonna be 2-hour parking, and they did. And that's what we voted on, 2-hour parking. And those are exactly the ones that have the temporary signs, 2-hour parking. So I went back and verified that so that we knew we were on the right track.
So I should have Kevin order.
So
permanent.
these are permanent 2-hour parking in, but what I want to clarify, and this is what John was concerned about, there was a very long discussion about Winnisquam Marine turning in and being able to back up their boats. And so there are literally 2 spaces, enough for 2 spaces that we did not make spaces so that they could turn their boats in and out. They're not marked, they're not lined spaces, and they were purposely left out for that reason so that Winnisquam could come in and out. These are, that were left out. So to go to your point, that's what that was left out. So now there's at least enough room for 3 spaces.
Yeah,
But they're not marked.
now.
Yeah.
Should we have no parking signs there?
I don't know if we should have no parking spaces. They're not lined. They're, I believe, the last one, and it's has an angle and it has hash marks on it. So obviously, everybody knows there's no parking on that. But the 3 that were in question are definitely were on that map and highlighted as 2-hour parking. Just so to
So-
clarify it.
So just to confirm, then I will tell Kevin to order permanent 2-hour parking signs and install them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And they could read them a little bit better because I went there and it was
Yeah, small, with little wooden signs.
It's revenue.
And the only other thing that I wanted to mention was that for the 21st, you do have the fire commissioners coming in to talk about the
Yeah.
132. We also, board will be making your award for the trash bid. Those are the 2 significant.
When's the trash?
On the 21st.
Yeah. That's all I have, unless anyone has questions for me.
What's the LED plan?
So the LED, so they've come up, they've done the plan, and now they need to meet with police, fire, and the DPW to look at the plan and verify what all the locations.
Do you have a
Like
map
the
of
streetlights?
the street, with the state streetlights or no?
They have all that, I haven't seen it yet. I'll be part of that meeting.
I'm curious if they're the same number, because we occasionally found that we were being charged for some that didn't even exist.
Can we
Well,
be
no,
part of
no,
that meeting or no? Can I be part of that meeting or no? Oh, you don't have a time?
No, they had scheduled the time and then we had some people who couldn't make it, so they're trying to reschedule it, so I'll just, I'll include you on the.
Oh, it's no big deal. No, never mind. There was when Catherine and I went down to the state and had the maps of the lighting, it varied quite a bit from what the state thought they had and what we had on the map. And so they changed it, and I was just curious, and I think it's up here. I think it's in the file cabinet. And I'm just curious to see if it's the same map as what these people have,
And
because
so
some of them we don't own anymore.
so come to the meeting. I haven't seen it yet.
I'll have to find the map of the lighting.
Ask Catherine, if she ever received it, she's got it.
Oh, we went down and marked them all up and everything, so I'm sure we've got it. I'm just interested to see if they are, usually the state, they don't have the same thing.
Who's going to give the proclamation at the concert?
I would say, Scott, you want to present it, your chair.
And you'll be there.
You'll be there.
I will.
We'll all
And I will lend my moral support. I will stand there right beside you.
We can all
Do you want to
stand
take
up
it
there
now, or
with
do you
them.
want us to hold it? No.
I'll take it now. It'll be going to Cleveland and back. It's okay.
We'll all stand by you when you present it to them.
Excellent.
We'll be up there.
That'd be good.
This wouldn't be the first week.
Anybody want to go to Cleveland?
Down the 10th,
But yours,
15th.
No. I already had it.
So what was the other one that you had?
It was a lobster connection. The election, lobster connection, proclamation, personnel policies, all the action items, everything else was in that.
Okay.
Any other business?
I just have an announcement on July 13th, the Tilton Northfield Rotary Club is having a cruise night with Joe Justiman as the cook. And
Cormier will be there.
oh, and that's great.
Yep.
And then proceeds will be benefiting the Tilton Northfield Rotary Club and the Tilton Senior Center.
Where is that being held?
Tilton Diner.
Tilton Diner, right out front.
What time?
It is 5 to 8 p.m. July 13th.
Yeah, it's a Wednesday night.
Regular
Wednesday night cruise.
Done.
Super. Mr. Scanlon.
We had a couple things. We had the, Tim put up on the website for the hazardous waste pickup. And I had got some questions about that. And Tim put it up there with the link and all the information. So that's coming up towards the end of the month. I think we didn't have one last year.
No, because of COVID.
Yeah, so this is really good, so people can bring that stuff in. Let's see, so we had the presentation at the Lakes Region Planning. There was a big presentation on the water park, Franklin, and how it's going to be attracting visitors. So we're hoping that will work out good. The Conservation Commission met with the developers of the preserve, whose large attendance of residents and concerned citizens. They had some very thoughtful questions and that pretty much the same. So I think everything's getting worked out real good for that.
was that video?
Yeah, yeah, they had to actually move up here because there were so many people up here. One of the things I'd like to see if we can start some type of, from the Selectmen, an annual community youth citizenship award. I think it would be a great idea to start including some of the youth in this town that are doing things to help out or to show good citizenship. That would be great for rewarding the people. I know the schools have different things in that, but there's a lot
It's a
of,
great idea.
a lot of guys, whether they have good grades or bad grades or anything, but some just,
Could that be something that could be tied into Old Home Day? So you have a citizen of the year and then like a
Great
junior,
idea.
yeah, something, you know, or,
a youth citizen.
There's some lemonades.
you know, or, you know, Northfield doesn't have
They
one,
raised a
and
lot of money.
it is Tilton Northfield Old Home Day, so we may,
Well, as a member of that committee, the next meeting we have, I will bring it up.
okay,
And because Northfield doesn't name the Citizen of the Year anymore than we, they have input, but it's a Old Home Day special thing. So that's a great idea, and I'm
Yeah.
sure they'll go for
yeah,
that.
I'd like to have, you know, the selectmen do it from each town, because it's going to have to be from Tilton and we'll get the word out for that. So I thought that would be great. Trail's still looking great. Let's see. So I helped out with the Park Cemetery on some of the gravestones and cleaning some of that. They're having a real hard time keeping up with the mowing and the upkeep of all the graves, because they're paying $10 an hour to somebody, and they can't get anybody to mow the lawns, weed whack, things break. They're doing it, but they have a lot of dead trees out there. I mean, it's not falling to ruins, but they really having a little bit of difficulty out there. So I don't know, might be looking at next year, the budget going up a little bit for them. They've been on like a shoestring for years.
Yep.
Same budget submitted.
They've never had an increase in my
Yeah.
experience.
It's
And
real.
it's been the same guy for a lot of years.
Yeah.
He's not getting any younger.
So, yeah, I mean,
That's how that goes.
That's how that goes.
so, yeah, and, kudos to the Public Works Department for all that work today. I think that was brought up earlier. I just had some stuff I wanted to pass out for everybody to have and take a look at it. Maybe we can
Clipboards
just-
of one.
Yeah, the whole thing. And they can take a look, and I'd like to discuss it at our next meeting, or possibly there's certain information here, they should take it in very seriously. And that's it.
We set aside some time, our next meeting, and talk about the cemetery.
Sure, yes. I think if we're gonna have this,
Particular.
I think we'll block out some time for it. Mr. Jesselman?
I have one announcement. This Sunday, July 10th, is the first concert in the park, although it's not in the park. We're going to be doing it this year just off of Prospect Street on the Tilton School grounds. It's a lovely place. And I said there'll be food. You got to come to see it. If you haven't been up there, you're going to be very surprised. It's so wonderful. And that said, I hope to see everybody there this Sunday.
What time?
Starts at 6.
It starts at 6. I always start like at noon, so but that's it for me.
I think the Tilton Citizen of the Year once again needs thanks. I saw him on the mower that he had gotten across the street the other day around the sign.
Well,
Everyone
that's
knows what
why
we're talking
he's the
about.
citizen of the year.
So
I'm a frustrated farmer. I went from 150 acres to 0.2.
I saw him across the street. I would like to have seen him cross the street on the John Deere, but that's interesting. So, but otherwise, any new business? Any other
I'm
business?
gonna wait until next.
Mr. Jesselman,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjournment, say aye. Opposed? We don't.
Well, it sounded like you hit the gavel there.
No.
It sounded like it. Joe, do you need help on something?
Do I need help?
He always needs help.
I need help ordering pizza down at T-Hawk.
You need help on the grill.
Sounds delicious.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Come on down, send your kid.
It'd be me. It'd be me.
Outstanding,
I got my training at Old Home Day.
outstanding. Well,
You'll have a little more shade.
I'll be practicing